What's up, Penguins fans? Happy Thursday, December 29th. This will be the second to last episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. It's pretty crazy how this year has flown by and what a year it has been for the show. Dive into some the numbers for Friday's episode. But for today's show, we're going to get into some practice notes from Thursday, why things have gone from bad to even worse for the Penguins, as Kris Letang is now banged up. Who could replace him in the lineup? We'll also preview the game against the New Jersey Devils a little later on, and we'll get to your mailbag questions because there were a lot of questions that came through for today. So it's all coming up right after this drop.
You're Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter at @Penguins. And of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of today. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. That is BetOnline, where the game starts. So let's jump right into it with the Penguins and their practice today. About a 30-minute practice up in Cranberry, and there was an unexpected absence. Kris Letang was not there. Thought it was just maintenance. I know Trevor Riedel was not there either. Josh Archibald, of course, was not there, but Ryan Poehling was. Looks like he's closing in on a return, but it was announced after practice, according to Mike Sullivan, that Letang is being evaluated for a lower body injury. He is day-to-day. So I did not notice it during the game last night, but kudos to Danny Shirey, who did have a replay of what happened with Letang. It looked like he blocked a shot early on in the first period, was hobbled up a little bit, got to the bench, was a little hobbled, but he did finish the game. He did not go to the locker room at all and come back and was hurt. No, like he seemed to be fine finishing that game. I guess it must have swelled after, but it was not a practice day. And, his status for Friday's game is up in the air right now. If I had to guess, he's probably not going to play because usually players that, don't practice the day before a game, at least under Mike Sullivan, they usually don't play in the next one. So I could be wrong, but it looks like as of right now, the Penguins may not have Letang for this one, and that just makes their defense just that much weaker. They're already without Jeff Petrie. They're already without Trevor Riedel. Now that they may have to be without Letang for at least a game. That's their top two right-handed shots. It's not a good time, to say the least. And, remember when the team was fully healthy 2 weeks ago? Yep. Pepperidge Farm remembers that as well. And if Letang is out, that means I think Ty Smith is going to be coming in. I really don't know what the top pair is going to look like if Letang is out. Pedersen, I think, will be on the top left, but who are you putting up there on the right side? Great question. Are you going to put Mark Friedman on your top pairing? You're definitely not going to put Brian Dumoulin or Jan Ruta up there. I mean, you could put Ruta up there, but I think that's just asking a lot. Are you going to put Ty Smith up there in his first game of the season? I think they're going to want to shelter him a little bit, but that's a gaping hole. I really do not know who will be on that pairing with Pedersen, just because the defense was rotating today. They didn't really give out the pairings and stuff, but maybe it's Ruta, maybe it's someone else. But it's the Penguins don't have a good answer for that right now. So yeah, that's another injury that the Penguins just could not afford to have right now. Hopefully it's nothing serious. The fact that he was able to finish the game bodes well, but and also saying that Jeff Petrie finished the game just about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago after he suffered that hand injury, even played the next game, and then it was like, oh yeah, he's out longer term. So, I don't really trust it at that much. It's Letang, so I think they're going to be decently careful, but it's still not great news that he might be out for at least that game, and then potentially the Winter Classic, as well as that is on Monday up in Boston, 2 p.m. start time. I can't wait to watch that game. I love watching the Winter Classic. I don't think I would ever go to an outdoor hockey game just because the view is so far away. But in terms of watching it on TV, there is not much better. There are not much better sporting events to watch on television than that. I will say that. Other practice notes, it looks like the forward lines are remaining the same. Who knows if that's going to stick for the game on Friday. I have no idea, people. He's just going to keep probably putting these lines in a blender. I mean, it was Gensel, Crosby, Raquel, Zucker, Malkin, Rust, McGinn, Carter, Heinen, and then O'Connor, Bluger, Kapanen. And again, the defense did rotate. Maybe Sully makes some changes. Maybe he doesn't. He should. I can't watch Jeff Carter be this team's third line center anymore. If I see another game of him as the third line center, I might just puke. They got to move him to wing, put someone. I mean, I've seen ideas for people that have been saying to try Heinen at center. I don't know how much that could really hurt you. He's been really struggling this year anyway. Maybe that's, the big move that could get his confidence back. Who knows? But, you can't keep trotting Carter out there at third line center. It's not working. It hasn't worked all season. And as Dejan said in his Daily Shot just a couple of days ago, this really all started with Carter right after he signed that extension. And I don't think it was, just a crazy coincidence or anything like that. It's just, nuts how, randomly just fell off a cliff directly after he signed that deal. Because before that, Dejan made a great point, and I've said it on my show as well. He was playing good hockey. He came over 2020, 2021, was awesome. First half of last season was great. Then after that, it was just a steep nosedive. And yes, Dumoulin was on the second pairing today with Jan Ruta. With the injuries to the defense right now, I would not expect Brian Dumoulin to come out of the lineup just yet. Let's wait to see when people get healthy. Letang's injury, I don't think it's long-term, but we'll see. Petrie still going to be out for a little bit. Once those two players come back, once Charito comes back, then the Penguins can make that true decision on what to do with Dumoulin. I think you all are going to be stuck with him right now. Should he be in the lineup? No. I would, but I don't want to say this. They kind of have no choice for tomorrow if Letang is out because they don't have any other defenseman on the roster. That's like an extra. Ty Smith's going to have to come in for him if Letang is out. So that's going to have to wait at least a little bit. But when this defense is healthy, he should not be playing, as I said on my episode last night. What was really interesting, though, is that Ty Smith was quarterbacking the top power play unit with Letang out. You could look to see that for Friday's game. He's always been an excellent puck mover, was quarterbacking the Devils power play unit when he was there. I believe he was on power play too, if I'm not mistaken. He's always been lauded as a great puck mover. I would be really curious to see how he would do with the big boys if he gets that opportunity on Friday night at home against the Devils. Be throwing him out to the Wolves, yes, but you either sink or swim in that situation, and I think he's got to swim. And yeah, I think they want to keep him up here in a perfect world. They want to develop him. They want to make sure that he is the true answer to Dumoulin, just because Dumoulin's contract is up after this season. But he can't do that if he's just sitting in the press box. He's there. Play him. You have no excuse to not play him. I understand that they didn't have a full practice with him yesterday, so they maybe wanted to get that in before, even if Letang had not gotten hurt. They wanted to do a full practice. I get it. But now that he's gotten that full practice in, even if Letang is somehow ready to go tomorrow, and especially if he's not, he needs to play. You need to see what you got in this player. He was the main piece acquired in the John Marino acquisition, or sending him out, over the summer. See what he has. It cannot hurt you worse than what Dumoulin has hurt you already this season. So really excited for his debut if he makes it. And especially if he's able to quarterback that top power play. That would be a lot of fun. That wraps up this first segment as we got into some practice notes and who could be replacing Letang and all that. If I had to take a stab at the defensive pairings, I'm just going to randomly guess here, guys. Pedersen, Jan Ruta, wow, Dumoulin, Friedman, Ty Smith, and I don't know. It's not a good time right now, to say the least. But if I had to guess, Ty Smith will play on the third pairing. I will say, but it's gonna stink to see Dumoulin probably stay on the second pairing. And yeah, I mean, probably POJ with him, or if you want to move POJ up, you could do that. I would have POJ eating way more minutes right now than Dumoulin. That's for sure. The fact that Joseph got 6 less minutes than Dumoulin on Wednesday night was just, that's a fireable offense, if you ask me. So maybe they do Dumoulin and POJ. Maybe it's Friedman and Smith on the bottom pairing. But man, that second pairing, I mean, Dumoulin is just going to take POJ down with him. But I do think the top pairing, if I had to guess, it's probably going to be Ruda and Dumoulin. That's a guess. Ruda and Pedersen, excuse me. Then maybe Dumoulin and POJ, and then some combination of Friedman and Ty Smith on the bottom pairing if Letang is not able to go. I was almost blanking on that other defensive for some reason. I don't know why, but I do want to see POJ get more minutes than Dumoulin, but I'm not confident in that. But again, that wraps up this first segment of the show. Coming up in the second segment, we're going to preview the game against the Devils and why, the Devils come into this pretty vulnerable. They've lost a lot of games in a row lately. So we're going to get into that. But before we do that, BetOnline is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. You get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from pro football to college bowl season to basketball and the World Cup. We've got it all at betonline.net. If you love sports podcasts, you can even find those at BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info. You can head to the website today or use your phone to learn more. That is BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, I'm back here on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter at LA Penguins. And of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. So the Devils come into this game. Remember, they had that hot start. They won 11, 12 in a row. Since then, they've lost 8 out of 10. They've lost first place in the Metro. Carolina has overtaken them, and they lead them by 6 points. And the Penguins are now just 2 points behind them, as well as the Washington Capitals. Last I checked, the Capitals were up 1-0 on the Ottawa Senators. I can check to see how that is going right now. The Penguins and Capitals are actually tied right now in the standings. And yeah, the Capitals are up 3-1 right now. They're also getting outshot 30-14. So they're getting outplayed, but it's not really mattering as of right now. And of course, the Red Wings, who came back from 4-0 down last night, they're down 5-0 to the Sabres right now. So if the Capitals do hold on to win this game, they will be tied for second place with the Devils, but the Penguins will also have 3 games in hand on them going into this game. The Penguins are able to win it. They will be tied for second place in regulation, at least, with both the Devils and the Capitals. And the Devils right now, top line, Tomas Tatar, Nico Hischier. Hischier is awesome. I mean, I can't say enough good things about him. One of the better two-way centers in this league. He's had a history of being a bit banged up. He's missed a lot of games, but when he is healthy, there are not many that can do what he does in all 3 zones, especially defensively. Now, I know he's good offensively, has a nice shot, has a great first pass in the offensive zone, but defensively is where he does a lot of his work. You're probably going to see a lot of Hischier versus Crosby in this matchup on Friday. Eric Haula, Jack Hughes, Jesper Bratt on their second line. That's a very good second line. Jack Hughes, we all know how good he is. Of course, he's the brother of Quinn Hughes. This was really going to be his big breakout season so far. He has done that in a massive way. He is an awesome player to watch on a nightly basis. Igor Sharangovich, Jesper Boquist, and Dawson Mercer. Sharangovich has played really well against the Penguins over the last year or two. He is going to be a handful in this one. And then Miles Wood, Tice Thompson, and Michael McLeod to round out their forwards. Defensively, Yogi Siegenthaler and Dougie Hamilton. We all know he's one of the best puck movers in the league. Siegenthaler, though, has been awesome for the Devils since he was traded by the Capitals. I really don't know what the Caps were thinking in that trade. His underlying numbers have been really solid throughout his NHL career, but the Capitals just decided to let him go because they wanted to play some older veterans up there. But Siegenthaler is making Brian McClellan look kind of lost because he's played very well on that top pairing. I never thought he would be a top pairing defenseman in the NHL, but right now he's playing well. Damon Severson with Kevin Ball in their second pairing. Severson's caught a lot of heat from Devils fans. As of late, hasn't been playing well defensively. He's been kind of getting into it with the media and stuff. I think Devils fans are kind of just waiting to move on from him, to be honest, I think, after the season. And then Brendan Smith, an old friend, is on the third pairing. Injury-wise, John Marino, former Penguin, he is still week to week. He will not be playing in this one. Ryan Graves, he is also on IR. Andre Palat, he is also hurt too. Do not expect any of those players to play in this game. And then goaltending-wise, it has been Vitek, Vanacek, and Mackenzie Blackwood. Vanacek has been pretty good this season. I'm still not sold on him overall. I think he's kind of just a 1B kind of goaltender. He's kind of coming back down to earth a little bit, but for the most part, he has gotten the job done this season, and their goaltending is one of the reasons why they're in a playoff spot right now. But this is still a team that, again, it's almost like, wow, you don't win the Stanley Cup in November. One good month does not really define your season, and they've been coming back down to earth a little bit. Penguins, they have struggled against the Devils the last couple of years. I believe last year they lost 3 out of 4 meetings to them. The year before then, it was kind of the same thing, where I think also COVID season where they played them 8 times, and I think the Devils won 5 of 8, or it was a split. The Devils have been giving the Penguins a lot of trouble over these last couple seasons, even when they have been bad. It's weird. I don't know what it has been. I know the Devils are a pretty quick team. They can outskate the Penguins, but the Penguins they usually have more talent than them, and they've had better goaltenders in the net. So, I'll be curious to see how this one goes for a lot of reasons. I always love getting the previews from the Penguins PR team. And this is interesting, actually. They actually did say the last 11 games played versus the Devils, the Penguins are 8-2-1. It does not seem that way, because I think it's probably because they lost 3 out of 4 against them last season. But Penguins are actually also 4-2-1 in their last 7 games against New Jersey. That is a weird stat. I swear that doesn't make any sense to me, because I swear during that COVID shortened season they struggled against them. But maybe I have that all wrong. I know I remember last season they lost 3 out of 4 against the Devils. I guess during the shortened season that they played them a lot better. It does not feel right that they are 8-2-1 in their last 11 against New Jersey. That's been a team I feel like the last couple of seasons that they've really struggled against. Maybe it's because even though they've won some games, they've still looked bad. I don't know. That threw me off, because that's crazy to me. But you know what? Whatever. In their last 7 home games against the Devils, though, the Penguins are 4-2-1. They're 10-3-4 home this season. Pittsburgh is also 5-2-2 against Metropolitan Division opponents. They have lost their last few, though, especially against the Islanders and the Hurricanes. So for keys to win for this matchup against the Devils for the Penguins, just making sure the Devils are not coming at them in waves. Last season, especially when the Penguins struggled against them, the Devils just looked like a much faster team. Those young legs that they had in the lineup were just outskating the Penguins in most of the games that they played against them. Want to see how the Penguins respond in this one, even though this will be their 3rd game in 4 nights. How tired are those legs? Again, I say this a lot of your games as well. Getting traffic in front of Vitek Vanacek. Penguins have done pretty well against Vanacek in the past. I think against them, he has barely even a .900 save percentage, especially when he was in Washington. Curious to see if that continues in this one. And the Capitals were actually a pretty stingy defensive team for a lot of those years that Vanacek was there. So, I know he's had a little bit of a glow up this season, but I still didn't think this is a goalie that can be had if he gets to start. I would expect him to start in this one, but they also could go to Mackenzie Blackwood. He's also been fine for the Devils this season. Limiting Jack Hughes, the Penguins need to continue to try and limit the best players. They didn't do a good job of that with the Red Wings as Dylan Larkin got things started. Last night, David Perron had a big game with 2 goals. Penguins need to get back to what they were doing against the Buffalo Sabres, especially when they limited Tage Thompson to just 1 point. They did the same thing with the Vegas game. Going back even further, et cetera, et cetera. So Penguins need to do a good job on the best players on New Jersey. Nico Hischier, Jesper Bratt especially. He's had a monster year for the Devils. Jack Hughes, I can go on and on. Dougie Hamilton, of course. Sharon Govich has killed the Penguins in the past. Tomas Tatar is finally getting the top line minutes. Remember when he was a healthy scratch for the Canadiens in the playoffs? Seems like a lifetime ago, but they legitimately did it. So the Devils have a lot of players that can hurt you. It's up to the Penguins to, try and let the other players, the bottom 6 players on New Jersey beat you in that one. And continuing the special teams trend, the Penguins, they have really turned those around. That's now 11 of the last 12 games. They have gotten at least 1 power play goal, the penalty kill. I know they had their 23-24 in a row streak snapped against the Red Wings, but, getting back to being stingy on the unit. The Devils, they can throw a lot of firepower at you on their power play. Tomas Tatar, Nico Hischier, Jesper Bratt, Jack Hughes, Dougie Hamilton. That is nasty. Like that is a very good top power play unit. The Penguins are going to have to be very diligent and very disciplined into making sure they don't take a lot of penalties, especially late in third periods like they did on Wednesday, where they just took a too many men penalty with 3:19 left, and that led to the Red Wings tying the game, not even 15 seconds into it. So staying disciplined, playing smart hockey, those are also big as well, and also just playing better with a lead. When the Penguins have blown a lot of leads this season that they usually did not do under Mike Sullivan when he first got hired, especially in 2016, 2017, heck, even 2018 and 2019. They need to get back to doing that and playing more in the offensive zone when they get a lead. Because lately, when the Penguins have gotten a lead, I feel like they've just been sitting back, they've been turtling, they've been getting hemmed in their own zone. They're not pressing the attack more and trying to get more goals. I want to see them do that a bit more. And we'll see if they can do that in this one if they get out to a lead. That's just a bit, I haven't really complained too much about it just because there have been other things to discuss when it comes to this team, but you all know what I'm saying. It's not, they got to start playing better with leads. They've won too many games this season, 2 Montreal games, especially this game against Detroit, the 2 games against the Hurricanes. That's 5 right off the top of my head. It is not good enough in the slightest, and it needs to change. Remember when there was that stat where the Penguins were basically undefeated, taking a second period lead into the third period? Been anything but that this season. That's for sure. Or, when they got the lead in the third period and they would just lock it down and be undefeated. They just haven't gotten back to that blueprint, and it's really hurting them right now. So that's, I think, another big key for the Penguins if they want to win this game against the Devils. But that will do it for this segment. Coming up in the final segment, we're going to get into your mailbag questions. But before we get to that, so say you're hanging out with some friends and putting back a few drinks, a few becomes a few too many, and as the evening comes to an end and people start to head out, you think of calling for a ride. But now you live nearby, you can make it home okay, it's no big deal. But what are the odds you'll get pulled over anyway? And even so, what's the worst that could happen? Your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you lose your job, you total your car, you kill someone. Everyone knows about the risks of driving drunk. The results are tragic and often deadly. However, that still doesn't stop everyone from getting behind the wheel while under the influence. That's why police officers are out there right now looking for impaired drivers on our roads to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Play it safe and plan ahead to get a ride. It only takes one mistake to change your life or someone else's forever. Drive sober or get pulled over. All right, I'm back here in this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast, and thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. So let us get into the mailbag questions here, and there are a lot to touch on here. If I can find my tweet, I don't know. Please do not refresh my timeline. That is not what I want to do, but let's just jump into it. So the Black US, do you think we're going to see a cap clearing move, like moving a cheap contract like Danton Heinen for virtually anything to allow someone like a Drew O'Connor to stay up here and let someone cook as the third C and push Jeff Carter to the fourth line? That's a great question, man. It's hard to say because I would like a cap clearing move. They need to do it anyway heading into the trade deadline because they're still, I think, a forward or two short. But I don't think it's going to be someone like Danton Heinen. I know he struggled a lot this season, and yeah, he makes $1 million, but is that really going to make that big of a difference? What are you even going to get back from him? Nothing. $1 million salary cap space is cool, but I don't think that's really going to mean much in the grand scheme of things. At least that's just how I see it. It would be nice if they could clear another, cap forward. People are probably going to yell at me for this, but Brock McGinn is not going to shoot 20% all year. You can sell high on him, but if you do that, you also maybe screw up the penalty kill and you make the bottom six even worse just because no one else really is scoring down there right now. So, it's hard to say because there are some contracts that you could clear that would probably be fine, man. But I just don't really know who it's going to be because I would like to see Drew O'Connor stay up here. He's very much an unknown for me right now just because the sample size is so small, but he has played well in a couple of games that we've seen him in this year. It's just he hasn't gotten the leeway from Mike Sullivan to just do more. That's the thing that's really just bugging me about it. Because, last night, and I should credit Adam Gretz for pointing this out, and I touched on it on my show. He gets that goal 2-3 minutes into the game, plays 7 shifts the rest of the time. What are we doing here? It's just, if you want to see what some of your younger players have, play them. Play them. It's not hard. And yeah, I would love to see Carter move down to the fourth line and play wing. And maybe you move Teddy Bluger up to the third line center as of right now. But, that's maybe a short-term solution. I don't think you're going to see a contract cleared right now, man. But I do think by the deadline, if they want to go out and get an upgrade over Carter, especially for that third line, which they desperately need, they're going to have to clear somebody out, to say the least, because it's going to be dollar in and dollar out. And Josh Carney, who covers the Steelers for Steelers Depot and a couple other places, shout out to you. You do a great job. He says, everyone's complaining about Carter as a 3C. So who are some realistic trade targets for a third line center that would allow Carter to move to the wing? Another great question. My top target has always been Bo Horvat from Vancouver. Jim Rutherford obviously knows the Penguin system very well. Horvat, I believe, makes over $5 million. I believe it's $6 million. He would be a perfect fit for this team. Can do it all offensively. Great in his own zone. He would be almost like a small upgrade over what they had in Nick Bonino. Because Bonino, he didn't do much in the regular season when he was here, but when it came to the playoffs, oh yeah, he elevated his game like it was no tomorrow. So, I think Horvat would do more than Bonino would, especially in the regular season, and I think he could potentially match how he would do in the playoffs. He would be my top target. I have seen Max Domi thrown around out there. Why not? I'm a little scared of what Chicago could ask for him, just because of the name and all that. Ty Domi's son, of course, and bad team, but he's still playing fine. I wouldn't give up a first for someone like that, but I think he's an upgrade over Jeff Carter. I think Nick Schmaltz also makes a lot of sense for the Penguins. It's a bad Arizona team. Schmaltz, a good center, can do it all offensively and defensively. Those are three names that jump out to me, I think, right away. I've seen a couple of people throw out Kirby Donk, but I don't really know if that would really work. In my opinion, those are the three names, though, that I really like. Ryan O'Reilly, I've seen people throw out there. I think he will be an upgrade over Carter, but he also costs a lot. And the Blues are going to want a heck of a lot in return for him. He's a good veteran center, not what he used to be, but can still, play some tough minutes, especially as a third line center. Would be open to it, just would want to see what the Blues are asking for in return, especially if they bottom out for the rest of the season. So those are some names that I am keeping an eye on. Josh, thank you for sending that in. Jersey in the morning, would swapping out Carter and Raquel be an idea worth considering? I'm not sure. How are you phrasing that question? Because if you're saying Carter on the top line, I don't think that would be a good idea. Like, I don't know if you're saying Carter on the top line wing. I don't think that would make sense. I think he would drag down both Sidney Crosby and Jake Gensel. I think that would be a massive mistake. Putting Rick, and I'm not really sure if you'd be putting Raquel as the third line center because he doesn't really play center. So I'm not sure if you're talking about just forward lineup or maybe something on the penalty kill, because I would do that in a heartbeat. But I don't think putting Carter on the top line right wing would make sense. I think that's what you're asking, Driz. But if I'm mistaken, please just let me know in a DM or something like that. You can just rephrase your question. But no, I would not consider that in the slightest. Joshua Karn says, if they decide to healthy scratch Carter for a game, who plays fourth line center with Archibald and or Paling on IR? Great question. If they did decide to healthy scratch Carter, I would maybe see what O'Connor has to offer there. I would see what Heinen has to offer there too. One of those two, I think. If Paling is ready to go for Friday's game, I would have Paling there. Actually, because he has played center in the past. But if your question is strictly about both Paling and Archibald on IR, I would do one of O'Connor or Heinen at center, especially just because, why not at this point. JT Pelly asks, what's a realistic way the Penguins can fix up the holes on their roster? Nobody wants Carter, Dumoulin, Kapanen or on their roster because of their contract, so a trade is pretty unlikely. Are they just going to roll with this the rest of the season? I do not think they are going to roll with this the rest of the season to start off. What I think they will do in the deadline, and you're right, I don't know who's going to want Jeff Carter, Kasperi Kapanen, or Brian Dumoulin. I think they're going to probably have to trade futures, whether that's a first-round pick in next year's draft, which I know Ron Hextall would probably not want to do because he's also looking towards the future, whether that's a top prospect. But again, what top prospects do the Penguins really have outside of Owen Pickering? Penguins aren't going to deal him, right? I mean, they just acquired him in this past draft, and he is, his ceiling is, I think, at least a top 4 defenseman in the NHL whenever he's ready. I think it's going to be 4 to 5 years down the road. So I think they're going to have to, roll with what they have right now, try to figure out some solutions, healthy scratching a couple guys when the team gets healthy, because right now the team is banged up. So they kind of have no choice but to play Dumoulin, right? I know you're not going to want to hear that, but with Letang out right now and he's day to day, they're kind of stuck. And when Letang comes back, they'll have that decision. Do you keep Ty Smith in the lineup if he plays well for a game or two? We'll have to see. But I think right now, JT Pelly, they are going to have to roll with what they have and make some solutions to the bottom 6 in-house. I know people are going to say, oh, you could call up Valtteri Puustinen from Wilkes-Barre. You can call up Sam Poulin from Wilkes-Barre. Those players are also massive unknowns. And, last I checked, they've made some progress, but, just how much of an improvement are they? And yeah, I know some people may say, Poulin had a good camp and a good preseason, and he did. I think he's, really shown some strides over this last year, but I don't know how much of a difference he's truly going to make in the bottom 6. And same for Valtteri Puustinen. There's no immediate solution down in Wilkes-Barre right now. At least that's how I see it. So it's probably going to have to be dollar in, dollar out when you get to the deadline. But again, as for right now, the solutions are going to have to come in-house. And they're going to have to move some guys in and out of the lineup, put some more youth in there to try to really change things up. And then Cody asks, do you think Fenway Sports Group will get their hands dirty next offseason now that the big stars are signed? That is a good question. I do think if they have another first-round exit, if they make the playoffs, I'm not really sure if Ron Hextall is going to be coming back after that. The Fenway Sports Group is very analytically inclined. They value analytics a lot. They always like the best of the best running their teams. They did not hire him. They did not hire Brian Burke. Would not be surprised if they did get their hands dirty if the Penguins are a quick out in the playoffs, assuming that they do get in this season. And then Angel Hornquist asks, is there any legitimate way out of this cap situation? It's frustrating that Carter and Dumoulin are over the boards before players like Joseph and Raquel. Seems easy to say deal them and move on. What would have to happen, and what's a realistic way to tackle that? I figured all you would be asking about Carter and Dumoulin. I get it. They've been playing really bad. But again, I don't know how legitimate it is to get out of those contracts. I don't think they're going to deal Dumoulin this season. They're going to try to find a solution for him. I can tell you all that they have had conversations with him in-house where they've sat him down. They've tried to get his confidence back, but they haven't taken him out of the lineup because I think they're just living in their fears with that, and they are too scared. Now, that would be obviously the next step, is having another deeper conversation to get him out of the lineup. But at that point, at least $4 million on your salary cap is just in the press box. So that's not good. The only way they could maybe deal one of them is you attach a sweetener. But again, there's not much trade action around the NHL right now. Like, look around. Who's making deals? These prices are sky high. The league is very close with a lot of teams. A lot of the sellers haven't really been known yet. There's still a couple months to decide that. So I understand that a lot of you are frustrated with Carter Dumoulin. I am too. It's very annoying that Rickard Rakell does not get any ice time in overtime on Wednesday night. It's very annoying that P.O. Joseph gets 6 less minutes, and that Mike Sullivan is being very stubborn about it. But, I don't think they're going to make a move with either of those players. I would be stunned. I think it's more likely that one or both of them come out of the lineup before they are moved. I do think they're going to finish their seasons here. What's a realistic way to tackle it, though? Again, just taking them out, replacing them with younger players who are just better and can provide more at this stage of their careers. A couple other questions to get to here on the Locked On Penguins Twitter account. Alan Chioder asks, if you were the GM and the Kraken proposed a trade of Dumoulin and Carter to bring back Tanev, would you do it, taking into account the salary contract? I'm not sure how this would work right now. Yes, I would do that in a heartbeat. That actually work. That would actually work in the Penguins' favor, because Dumoulin makes 4, right? Carter makes a little over 2. That's over $6 million going out and Tanev is coming back and he makes what, 3.75. So I would do that in a heartbeat. He was a great player when he was here. I was fine with losing Tanev. It was just the way the Penguins went to replace him, I thought was wrong. And I think the way the Penguins have reshaped their bottom six over these last couple of years has been wrong. They've just made it so their bottom two lines are just low event. Nothing happens. It's all in the top six. But yet, when the top six goes cold, they don't win games because because then at that point, the bottom six is not scoring. So, it's just a flawed roster construction. But yes, Alan, I would 100% do that trade if Seattle proposed it. And he also asked which in-game promotion is your favorite right now. In-game promotion is my favorite if I had one. Man, that's a good question. I'm gonna have to come back to that one to say, like I would maybe say the Big Mac attack. That's fun. I don't usually go to McDonald's that much, but it is still a lot of fun. But if I had to say one that I actually go to, it's Shake Shakes, 100%. That's the best one, in my opinion. And then Nikki T says another question. What is the realistic outcome for the Dumoulin Carter situation? Do you see Hextall fixing this, or are we stuck with them until next season? Yeah, I mean, as I've explained to most of the other people who have asked about Dumoulin and Carter, Nick, yeah, I think they're going to stay here for the rest of the season. I think Dumoulin walks after this year. Ty Smith will come up. Maybe they can deal Carter or buy him out after this season, though they're going to have to be on that contract for a couple of years after. But I mean, their hands are tied. What they're trying to do right now, my buddy said this to me this morning. It's like trying to make chicken salad, like a really good chicken salad with chicken crap. That is what the Penguins are trying to do right now with their bottom six in the Ryan Dumoulin situation. So that's the answer I have for you. And then who are some possible depth players the Penguins could look to acquire at the deadline? Yeah, I mean, just some third line centers that I pointed out for you, Nick Schmaltz, Bo Horvat, Max Domi. Those are the players that jump out to me right away. I've seen people say Jonathan Taves. No thanks. 10.5 million cap hit. There's no way the Penguins can make that work. If there's a third team or something like that. But those are some of the players that I would look at. Jeff's Penguins asked, should we be worried about this team's lack of depth the rest of the year? I'm a little worried about that, yes. Especially with Poehling and Archibald out. I think Archibald has been a pleasant surprise this season. I think Poehling has been fine, but you're seeing right now that they do have some depth problems. Dan Heinen has not done a damn thing this year. Kasperi Kapanen, who has problems of his own, he's maddeningly inconsistent, and you don't really know what you're going to get from him on a nightly basis. He's just an enigma. Jeff Carter, we've talked about that relentlessly in this episode. I am concerned about the lack of depth. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the Rangers last season before they made those 3 moves at the deadline to make them a deeper team. I don't think the Penguins will have the salary cap space to make 3 forward moves before the trade deadline, but I do think they need to make at least 1 move for a forward at the deadline. But to say that I am concerned right now would be a massive understatement. I am very concerned about it. And then finally, Jackson Hollister asked, are there any dark horse players you like the Penguins to acquire for 3C or third line wing? Yep, Jackson, I've probably answered that numerous times, So again, Bo Horvat, I'm already just I've answered them so many times. I'm just starting to blank on their names again. Yeah, Bo Horvat, Nick Schmaltz, those kind of players, and then not Penguins related. How's living in Pittsburgh so far, and what is your favorite thing to do there? Honestly, man, appreciate you asking that. It's been awesome to live here. It's been a dream of mine to be up here since I was a kid. I absolutely love it. I can't get enough of living in Pittsburgh. It's been a bit cold, sure, but me being able to go to a lot more games has been awesome. This is the most amount of games I've ever gone to in Pittsburgh, and just meeting so many people that I've known on social media for the last few years and meeting them at games and going out to drinks and stuff. Nothing beats that. And I hope to meet more of you guys, at the games. If you all go to some, just let me know. I'm probably going to go to a lot more games this season. And then what's been what was the last question you said? What's my favorite thing to do out there? Man, that's a good question. I love trying a bunch of new food places. I think the food up here is very underrated. I also love going to my favorite bar up here is probably Howl at the Moon downtown. I will always love that place. I think it's the best bar / club in the city of Pittsburgh. The vibes are immaculate. They have the dueling piano music where they just play a bunch of cool hits. The Penguins games are always on in there. The drink prices are always pretty good. That's probably one of my favorite places to go. But the Strip, Market Square, the waterfront, even there's so much fun things to do here. And I'm having the time of my life, and it's only been a month. But I appreciate you asking that. I appreciate all of the mailbag questions. I know they were kind of a little bit repetitive with Carter and Dumoulin, but I also very much understand that is the top topic of conversation right now. But again, that will do it for this one. Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I'll be back with another episode on Friday to recap the game against the Devils. Hope you all listen to that. Again, really hope you enjoy listening to this one. Have a great rest of your Thursday.